In a world searching for a light in the dark, there is only one two-man team with the balls to take you by the hand and lead you towards the light. That one team is RantWorthy Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It's another Sunday, April 15th, 2018. I am your host, Lee Powell, with my co-host, Ryan, the audio engineer, Schomburg.
Whoa, what's going on?
We got an upgrade. And we are casting the pods from a secret bunker in the heartland of America, Cincinnati, Ohio. Here is your diploma.
Learning on the fly, dog.
Sponsorships. We have those. We've tricked some people. Fighter Philosophy. Go over to Etsy shop, put in Fighter Philosophy, pick up a sweet rash guard, or you can go to fighterphilosophy.com. Also, Keto Delivered. What is Keto Delivered? Well, they are the curators of keto goodness. Duh. They find the best keto-friendly ingredients, condiments, snacks, and much, much more. Put them on your stinky doorstep every month. KetoDelivered.com.
You think I can put that on my resume? Producer and audio engineer?
I can tell you from experience, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I've had, man, I feel like I got to watch what I say sometimes. Because you don't want to accidentally skirt the lines of my job. Let's see. But I've seen resumes in my past 14 years of where there'll be a long-standing thing of where, like, maybe they didn't work for a little while.
Slam dunk champion.
And then it's like running, last 3 years was running my own Twitch channel.
What?
I've had that. And I did not look on it fondly. I was like, I mean, granted, you're not hiring people based off of that. It's based on, like, do you meet these characteristics of things that are important to this job?
Well, he's an entrepreneur.
But I looked at that and I thought to myself, what the fuck is this? So that's like having a podcast. You may have like 5 listeners and you'd be like, so what have you been doing for the last 5 years, man? Just, I'm an audio engineer. I just been,
producing
shows and, staying busy.
I love that.
I wouldn't put that on the resume if I were you.
All right, so last night we had an awesome Fox card, which was great because it was early, which is what we all love.
Much earlier.
So we headlined that with Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, which was
bananas.
Just as advertised. These two absolutely went to war. Was very back and forth. Justin was tearing up Dustin's legs. At one point, it looked like he wasn't going to be able to walk, but they continued to fire back and forth. And then finally, Dustin catches Justin. He goes into zombie mode and essentially puts him out after that. But it was a fantastic fight. Very back and forth, very high pace. Absolutely loved it.
Before the fight, looking at this, I feel like I can always get excited about seeing Gaethje on there because in the UFC, it's like you were saying, like as advertised, he brings it every time. He's a great dance partner. For just about anybody. Not only is lightweight just so exciting, and there are matchups galore. We've been talking about this for the last year. It's so much fun in that division. And Gaethje, it's like I just feel like he could fight anybody, and it's just like that's going to be great. That's going to be so much fun. Those two to me was going to be it's also kind of a turning point for Dustin because it's. I'm not saying that he's a guy who breaks, but every time that he goes to like the main card, or not the main card, but like main event, or he had big opportunities where you're almost there, he would kind of falter. So it was a guy that's going to push the pace, that's going to stay there with him the entire fight. It's going to at one point probably test Dustin's will and heart, and will he collapse under that or will he push through? So that's kind of like the question I had beforehand. Gaethje is going to stay in there for a long time, if not the entire time, and eventually drown you in how much pressure he brings. But so I came in with this question, what's going to kind of happen, and I knew it would probably be fun, but once it started happening, it almost went the exact way it should, right? I mean, Dustin is the more polished striker. His boxing in that division is amazing. To me, I'm not saying that his style is similar to Edson Barboza, but I mean, in terms of what style they're bringing, it's perfect for that. Like, right. Edson's Muay Thai is perfect, right? I mean, it's gorgeous. He does everything right. Everything's the smallest tells. He feints. He does uses every limb. spinning attacks, elbows, knees. Edson is like the perfect Muay Thai fighter. I feel like Dustin is like one of the most sound boxers there is.
Right.
Where other guys may be loopy with certain things. They may be good. They may win. They may have pretty good boxing, but I feel like he has the most polished boxing in the lightweight top 10. I mean, when it comes to pure just boxing. Like, other guys have better kickboxing, but man, his boxing is so nice. He cuts angles so well. And he throws combinations so well, too. That's what you could see last night. You notice when he was throwing ones and twos and Gaethje would almost clam up and he wanted him. Remember, he kept like waving him on almost to keep throwing at his guard to get him to kind of burn out so that he could try to sink you later on. It's like then Dustin was like, instead of just throwing the one and twos, then it would be people would treat. He was almost treating Gaethje like Lozon. Throw a little bit, get him to clam up, and then look for the hole in between the arm to hit him in the ear or a rip to the body at the end. So it's like, as the fight went on, Dustin got more educated on how to catch Gaethje. But then by the time the third round came around, and some of what Gaethje was putting in, like the leg kicks and the clinching scenarios.
Oh, his body shots were
it just
intense.
started adding up so much. I mean, those low leg kicks on Dustin Poirier, I don't even know. He's going to be hurting for the next month, I would think. Like, that guy's not going to be able to walk. The amount of leg kicks that Justin Gaethje landed was insane. And by the time the third round comes around, though, Dustin starts slowing down, and I'm like, here it is. You know, this is the turnaround round, and this is when Gaethje's going to kind of step on the gas, and I don't know how it's going to ever come back, you know? And Dustin slows down. He starts getting beat up in the clinch. He's getting low leg kicked, and now every time he's getting low leg kicked, he's giving like a grimace. And I'm like, oh no, Dustin's about to break. I'm thinking it's going to be over. And then the eye poke kind of happens. And to stop on the eye poke for a minute, I don't think that anybody is out there saying like it wasn't an eye poke. I would say it's because they were at a hometown crowd for Justin Gaethje that they were saying boo. But I mean, that was kind of like one of the most flagrant eye pokes ever.
Right.
I mean, it was like a full extending jab that would have been a legit jab, and then his fingers opened up at the end, and it like slung the fingers right in his eyes. I mean, it was like some Larry Curly Moe type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he almost like Star Trek signed him right in his fucking both of his eyes. I mean, it was horrible.
My thing with the eye pokes that gets frustrating, though, is that you let some guys get away with it forever, and then others, there's no consistency. Like, are we going to go to a... first time there's a warning, and then after that there's a foul. I feel like
that's what that one was.
Yeah.
They gave him a strong warning on the first one and then took away a point on the second
and
one.
I don't have any problem with that, because throughout that, Herb was telling him, close your hands, even when there weren't eye pokes happening. But at the same time, you just see so much difference between fights on that. I just wish they would get some clarification on that rule, because I think that's where the frustration comes from the fans too. Whereas, we've seen fights where we see 4 or 5 eye pokes, so there's no point taken away, and then you have 2 in this one, and it turns into a point taken
I wonder
away.
if that is them tightening it up, though. To me, I thought the 2 was perfect. I don't know. I don't get it. Rogan, Schaub, Ariel, all these guys say that first one you should get a point deducted. That I do not agree with that whatsoever. I don't even know how you could defend that.
Right.
Because they'll automatically say, well, the fight could be different. This one case, you can't make the exception the rule. Just because Travis Brown, Matt Mitrione, like one guy's getting beat up and then an eye poke happens and then he gets finished. You have like one marker. You know how many fights there are? How many thousands of fights we've seen in the UFC? To where that can't be the only one that you talk about. That's where fortunes changed. So on the very first poke, everything changed. I can't get down with one mistake. A guy accidentally poked someone in the eye, and now it's 1 point. That can change everything. That's gonna ruin. That's gonna make so many draws happen. I just don't agree with it at all.
One other thing with it too is that it's easy to say these things when you're looking at it in slow-mo, but in the heat of the fight, when you have somebody's moving and so on and so forth, when you go to push off of somebody, to say, oh, well, they move their head or something in a different way, and it ends up being that, you can't go off the one because of that, because there's going to be accidental eye pokes all the time.
Right, and you can't assume that it's always like actually fight altering.
Right.
So, I mean, the reason you would be taking a point away is because you're saying that it was fight altering. It is not always fight altering. getting poked in the eye or an accidental eye poke, it does not always change everything. Some guys need a minute and they're like, oh, I'm good. You know, and you just keep rolling on. So, you know, I to me, a good strong warning on the very first one, it's like, hey, I get it. It was an accident. No big deal. Because you can just go back over all the old fights and kind of see how often does this happen. I feel like an accidental eye poke happens how many times in a full card? Twice?
Yeah, not
maybe
that much.
maybe 3 times. So 3 times in an entire card. So if you have 14 fights on a card, 3 possible rounds and then a main card fight. And out of all those fights, there are 3 eye pokes, but 2 of them happen to happen in one fight. I'd say there's a problem in that one fight.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, you need to address it with them. It'd be 1 warning and then 1 point deduction. I thought it was handled perfectly. I think the 2 is perfect. Any more than that, it gets mildly egregious because the chances of 1 affecting everything, maybe not that big of a deal, but then 2, you are kind of changing everything because now the guy's getting frustrated. He's getting poked in the eye multiple times. That would almost become like gamesmanship. If you knew you could get away with 2 fouls every time, why wouldn't you just take advantage of 2 fouls?
Yeah.
People are going to take advantage of rules. So but if you do it just once, you know, shit, I better watch my ass because 1 more, I'm losing a point, and this is a close fight, and I can't afford that. You know, so to me, that I thought that was played correctly. And then you remember at the end of the third, I don't know, people aren't blowing it up enough for me, but remember when Gaethje did the rolling thunder kick?
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome. That was some Harold Howard shit. Do you remember that guy?
Mm-mm.
The Harold Howard kick. Harold Howard was a psychopath from, I think, UFC 3. Look it up. Okay. So Harold Howard, he had a big mullet, and he had like this saying, like, we have a saying when you say come get it on or whatever.
This is hillbilly guy.
Yeah, the hillbilly dude.
I know exactly.
Who fights like Connor. Like he does like the jumping back and forth.
He looks like he wanted to be Brett the Hitman Hart.
Yes, that is him. Like for dark glasses,
yeah,
stringy hair down the back.
Yes.
He was it was like a Sid Vicious looking guy or Mr. Perfect from wrestling. He had the awesome hair. He's all greased up. He's a dork. I love that guy though, but he did that in one of those fights.
Really?
He was going back and forth. He won one of his fights by TKO. And then another fight, he does a little front flip thing, and it's called like a rolling thunder kick.
He got absolutely annihilated in like the second fight of that tournament, didn't he?
Yeah. He eventually got fucked up.
Yeah. It made me feel bad.
So he did. So when Gaethje did that, I was like, "Oh shit, the Harold Howard kick!"
I love that you remember his name.
I think it's UFC 3, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I would be. That'd probably be correct.
I should look it up. So, but then the 4th round, it was pretty nice to see because Dustin also kind of shows us that he can keep his composure and cardio all the way into the 4th round. Because really, I still thought he was breaking in the 3rd. And then the 4th, though, he's still really educated. He's being smart because if you look at the ending sequence, he shows how smart he is. I've watched the ending sequence multiple times in a row, and it is a straight up classic boxing thing to kind of do. He was just leading off of the jab. And what I mean by that, to a normal person, it may sound silly. Someone just hears someone say that and you're like, what does that actually mean? You can see he jabs Gaethje. He's throwing out the jab and then he like waits for a reaction and Gaethje doesn't do anything. You can tell he's jabbing, hoping that Gaethje's going to do something. And then Gaethje does nothing. And then he jabs, Gaethje does nothing. But then he jabs and then he's finally going to get a reaction back from Gaethje and he loads up the left. And he loads up the left. Gaethje happens to throw the low leg kick. And what does that do? Leaves the side of the face wide open. Bam. Just comes through with that thunderous left. And I mean, just mollywops him. I mean, it turns Gaethje halfway around like one of those cartoons, those Looney Tunes cartoons where someone's head turns around like 15 times and then it unravels. I mean, just turns Gaethje around and Gaethje, just turns into the zombie walk. He's barely staying up, flopping against the cage, half turned. It was crazy looking. He looked drunk out there.
Yeah.
It was like watching a fight at Waffle House at 1 a.m. It was awesome. But then on top of that, Dustin shows like his composure where Gaethje is hurt. He's damn near about to be out of it. He runs him down, and though he's staying on him, but he's picking his shots smart. He's throwing 1, 2, 3 punches and then cutting angles and then throwing more and then cutting angles to where he's not doing the dumb thing of like, I'm just trying to finish and blow the wad or get countered. So he was like throwing a couple, moving, throwing a couple, moving, throwing a couple, and eventually stops him.
Right.
I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy fight.
Well, it says a lot about Dustin too, because you're not going to get anything for free from Justin, because Gaethje invests so much in the leg kicks and going to the body that, you know, if you had any questions about his toughness prior to this, I think you really answer those at this point. It really is a huge win for him, and good for him. He's a guy who always kind of, like you said, sits on the outside. So to get something that can kind of skyrocket him back up there and maybe put him back into title contention is awesome. I love it.
I mean, he has to be at the top of the division. I mean, I think he was already at 5, but now I don't know if you put him at 4 because I think Alvarez is there. Can you pull up the lightweight rankings?
Yeah.
I don't know where you end up putting him because I think he was 5, and then I think 4 is Alvarez, and then Edson Barbosa might be in there too, and then you got Conor, Khabib, Tony. So who we got here? All right. So we got Conor, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez, Edson Barbosa, Dustin Poirier. So, and you got to think Dustin arguably beat Eddie Alvarez. He was taking it to Eddie in that fight before the foul. So, I mean, you could damn near, and Edson is coming off of a loss, and Dustin's coming off of multiple wins. I mean, you damn near got to have Dustin. He could be number 4 or number 3 right now with little argument. He could either be ahead of Eddie Alvarez or maybe just 4 with Eddie Alvarez because they both beat the same guy.
Yeah.
But considering what they did in their fight, you probably got to put Dustin at 3. Like I said, I wouldn't be mad at 4. Eddie's a former champion. Maybe you put him at, it could be 3 or 4 though. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Dustin is up there now. I mean, he could either be a guy that steps on like a short notice thing, or now you do the Eddie Alvarez rematch like we wanted before. Like
that would be amazing.
Maybe now's the time. But I wouldn't mind. It's crazy because not long ago I wouldn't have thought of this fight, but now a Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson, that to me seems fun. Like if Conor wants to come back, why not do Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson and figure out who fights Khabib? There isn't it nuts that what the lightweight division is?
It's amazing.
I mean, it is full of so many people that you want to watch fight. The top 15, I don't care what you do, just throw all the names in the hat, pull them out, and who gives a shit? I mean, it just doesn't matter. All these matchups are so crazy. And then next weekend you have Edson Barbosa versus Kevin Lee, which is going to give more movement to the lightweight. And God forbid a guy like Kevin Lee win. Because once he gets up even more in the rankings, imagine Kevin Lee versus any of these people.
Yeah.
I want to see Kevin Lee versus Gaethje. I want to see Kevin Lee versus Dustin Poirier. I want to see Kevin Lee versus Eddie Alvarez. We've seen Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson. I want to see Kevin Lee versus all these guys. I wouldn't mind Kevin Lee versus Khabib because Kevin Lee's wrestling is nice. I mean, really nice. Is it good enough to maybe keep a guy like Khabib off? And I'll tell you what, his stand-up and his explosiveness is dangerous. He's more dangerous than Ally Aquinta, I'll tell you that. And he's a better wrestler than Ally Aquinta. So if you keep that standing for a little while, what ends up happening? Man, there's a lot of fights that can happen. What do you think you do with Justin Gaethje now? You got to think, right? So he came over from World Series of Fight and all that. He's 17-0 at the human highlight reel, which he has been. He fought Michael Johnson, but remember, was in a lot of trouble with Michael Johnson. Ends up finishing him, fight of the year, contender. And then he fought Eddie Alvarez, another fight of the year contender. Barely loses that fight. I mean, you got to really think about it. Though he gets finished, there were times in that fight where it was adding up all the damage on Eddie where he might beat Eddie, and Eddie is number 3 in the world. So you can't, though he lost, man, he had Eddie in trouble for a while, and he put a lot of damage on Eddie. And then the same with Dustin Poirier. Now he's number 5. He may end up being 4-3. In the 3rd round, it was close getting Dustin. And if Dustin doesn't finish him in the 4th, I don't know what the 5th round looks like. Maybe Dustin slows down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's almost like the Alexander Gustafsson. Like, you're only losing against the cream of the crop, so you can't really like shit on him for losing 2 in a row. But what do you do?
I think you almost have to see it's tough because you can't really feed him anything too crazy because the top 15 is nuts at this point. I'd like to see him against like Anthony Pettis if you want to continue to push Justin Gaethje, or depending on what your agenda is, I think James Vick works as well because he's on the coming up, and we can kind of do the let's see who's going to continue and where the paths cross. And even Michael Chiesa, I think, is a good move too because he's going to drop a little bit here, so you could justify any of those matchups there, and it's really going to show you, okay, are we seeing him getting caught by guys that are just that good, and is he going to chew other people up, or are we seeing him kind of regress and people catching up to him and figuring him out?
You know the kind of matchup that I want for him? So I feel like I'm thinking from a matchmaker and, a matchmaker point of view and like a businessy point of view. I feel like if you want Gaethje to win his next fight, let's be serious, right? Like the next person... At one point, you stop feeding off of somebody's name. Does that make sense? You had Eddie Alvarez beat him, and at the time, that mattered because he needed a good win. Eddie was a former UFC champion and Bellator champion, and so on and so forth. And Gaethje came from World Series of Fight, and he was a champion. So you have these guys that were champions in other places, plus the UFC. So them fighting was worth it. Therefore, that win over Gaethje is like it brings up Eddie Alvarez's stock, right? So same with Dustin. That still meant something, but the next one might not mean as much, if that makes sense, So I feel like the next fight is like it needs to be a winnable fight for Justin that at least makes it go, okay, so he is top 10 still, but it needs to be also winnable for the other person. It needs to be kind of a middle tier fight. And I feel like you only get that two different ways. And luckily you didn't say one of them, and I'm telling you it's the best one. Don't look. The first one is the one Anthony Pettis.
I think that's the best in my opinion.
Anthony Pettis, because that is going to be probably a fun fight. Like that'd just be stylistically fun because there's probably not going to be much wrestling. They're probably just going to stand, and we'll get another probably classic on our hands. And the potential of it is he could eventually push sorry, your eyes are fucking me up. The potential of it, he could probably drown Anthony Pettis eventually and get a good win, and that'd be over a former champion, and that's good. The fight is Nate Diaz, dude.
I actually, as I looked back down, I was like, oh, that's where he's going here.
Dude, the fight is Nate Diaz because Nate could see that as a fight of it's a winnable fight to come back. It gives him legit, like, you could get him back in the top 10, like legitimately in the top 10. He's number 8 right now, even though he hasn't fought in I don't know how long, hasn't got a win at 55, and I don't know what Michael Johnson like 4 years ago somehow, and he's still number 8. That doesn't make sense. So he has to get a win, and that's probably the most winnable fight for him stylistically. And can you imagine the hype for that fight?
The amount of punishment that Nate can absorb.
Both of them.
It's crazy.
Like, I feel like you're just signing up for, this is going to be 5 rounds of chaos. Well, Nate Diaz versus Justin Gaethje would be crazy.
And Nate doesn't have the hands to finish Justin, so I think that really is going to change everything.
Right.
You know?
Or the thing is, though, Nate plays kind of a similar game of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
He's going to try to take you out in the deep water too. He's kind of the same thing, and it'd be like, who's gonna slow down? And what is another thing that Nate doesn't do well? Check kicks. If you think that Conor McGregor is gonna kick your leg and that's gonna slow you down, well, just wait till Justin Gaethje kicks you in the leg.
Yeah.
That's why it's extremely winnable, but it's gonna be a dog fight. So it could be we could get another highlight Justin Gaethje fight that he walks away with a win, and he could potentially feed off of somebody that's going to make him unbelievably popular.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gaethje gets a win over Nate Diaz. That's going to be gigantic. That'll be huge for his career. And to me, I think that is the perfect fight. And
you can sell that so well.
People want to see Nate Diaz come back. And I swear, unless you're saying Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, outside of those two, I don't know who you could name that people would give a shit about Nate coming back. It would just be like, it better be like a Nate Diaz squash match. Like, you just want to see him win kind of thing. But if you bring him back against Gaethje, I feel like the Gaethje fans will love it because it's a winnable fight. Nate Diaz fans will love it because it's a winnable fight. From a company point of view, you know what this is about to be. This is like the easiest thing. This is a no-brainer. That is the easiest book it right now fight. It's like when Nate says, "Hey, I'm back in the game," like he did a couple weeks ago, and then this fight just happened. Someone hurry, just get on a plane, book these motherfuckers right now.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
That's the one I want, man. I want that so bad. I hope there's even the slightest hint of it this week so I can get excited about it.
That would be
want
amazing. All right, so let's talk about Carlos Condit versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira.
Yeah, man.
So this was a great matchup as well. I had a lot of fun with this.
I hated the matchup though, only because when it was Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. See, I don't know if everybody knows that, so I wanted to quickly touch on that. This was originally Matt Brown versus Carlos Condit, and what was perfect about that match is they're sort of in the same realm. Guys that have been around a long time, guys that have taken a lot of punishment, guys that are slowing down in their career. They both really need a win. Matt Brown just retired not long ago and came back. Carlos Condit just retired and came back. They're in the same spot in their careers, and it made so much sense. Condit said that he wasn't all in on the Magny fight. So here's a less dangerous guy who doesn't have crazy power. Both of them don't really have crazy power. It doesn't mean they don't have knockout power, but these guys don't have like, oh my God, power. So I thought that was a perfect matchup. When they took out Matt Brown, where he gets injured, and then they put in Oliveira, I was like...
Wait, it was like...
I just grimaced a little bit. I'm like, oh no, that's much scarier.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a bad matchup for Condit. I mean, I actually was surprised that he hung on as long as he did. But the Cowboy thing, I'm a big fan of his, especially after that last fight he had. So to go through that, it was fun. And the story for this one was the up kicks. That up kick at the end was just absolutely nasty.
Do you remember what happened? I don't remember how in the first round he got Carlos down. Did he? Was it just a shot? I swear I looked down for a second. I look up and all of a sudden Oliveira's on top.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I didn't know what was going on because it was interesting because at first it looked bad for Carlos right away. The very first beginning of the round, he gets taken down. He remember he got his back taken, and then he ends up reversing though. Carlos reverses everything. He ends up on the back. So by the end of the first round, he's trying to choke Oliveira. Remember? I mean, and it is damn close. It looks like Carlos Condit is about to be back. He's about to get this finish. And then the round ends. And it's like, okay, he was in some early trouble. He stuck it out. He ended up putting Oliveira in a lot of bad spots. Okay, this is looking pretty good. And then the second round, remember, I thought, I don't want it to be about the illegal shot. I swear it was illegal. But remember when he was shooting on Oliveira in the second round and Oliveira started elbowing him? And when you push someone's head on the inside, like towards your hips, like you're getting ready to sprawl, he started elbowing him through the window of when someone's hands are around your hips and you push their head down. He elbowed through that. That's where the blood all started pouring from.
Right, because that was disgusting.
It was right in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, God, are they just going to let him elbow him right in the back of the head? And he did, and man, he just was bleeding all over the place. It was crazy.
When he dropped down and he was standing on top, when he was standing up and he was bleeding all over.
He was like bleeding
Cowboy.
in Cowboy Oliveira's mouth and in his eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, I was just thinking 28 days later when the dude is under the bridge and the dead body drips right in his eye and he goes crazy.
Yeah.
That's exactly. I was like, oh no.
Perfect
I was
analogy.
like, he's gonna turn into a zombie.
Were you impressed with how long Cowboy was able to hold on to that guillotine and not blow his arms out?
Yeah, that was nuts.
I couldn't believe that.
And we've seen that a couple times recently where guys just chased the guillotine. So the ending sequence of this fight was Oliveira is down and Carlos is kind of coming in, not so cautiously, I'd say. He was being a little reckless. And Oliveira's throwing these up kicks. They're kind of bouncing off his shoulder. But then one smacks Carlos in the face where you can almost always tell, like when someone stays looking straight at you and you're getting hit, you're almost like kind of okay. But this one hit him and turned Carlos's face, like kind of whipped it off to the side. And you're like, uh-oh. And Carlos gets swept really easy. It's like, I don't know if his equilibrium was fucked up or what, but all of a sudden Oliveira ends up on top, and Carlos gives into auto mode of trying to shoot a takedown, and Oliveira puts in a guillotine, and he just chases it and chases it. At one point, I thought Carlos Condit was unconscious.
Me too.
I was like, because I didn't see his arms move. I didn't see him giving like a thumbs up.
Well,
like,
even
I'm okay.
Even DC and Dominic Cruz were confused about it because DC was like, "Oh, he's out."
I thought he was unconscious, and that's why I would probably make a terrible ref, because at one point I'm like, he's so clearly unconscious. He's not moving. He wasn't shooting for a half guard. He wasn't shooting for anything. I was like, oh no, this is bad. Like, I think he's unconscious.
He's gonna die.
They're gonna let this, we're gonna watch somebody die in the ring. I was really worried. I was like, oh shit. And then I saw him barely start kind of moving back to like a half guardy kind of thing, and I was like, oh okay, he's back. And then 2 seconds later, he's tapping, and I was like, wow, man. Oliveira held that guillotine for a solid 45 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And in a fight, that's a co-main event in the UFC, the pressure and oh my god, I almost get him. You would think his arms would be just smoked.
Yeah.
But he held onto it for super long. It was a fun fight. I mean, it was pretty back and forth, though it was short. But what can you say? What's sad about this is when we walk away from this fight, I feel like there's less to say about Alex Oliveira than there is to say about Condit. Because what is the clear question? It's like, what do you do about Condit? What do you do?
Hey, he's come back. You had this hype surrounding him. You've given him 2 fights, and this one was kind of unfortunate. The Cowboys stepped on short notice on this, but at the same time, when you're not even seeing a Condit who can make it through the fight, that's the problem. Is if it would be one thing if it was more back and forth, and I know we got a little bit of that in the first round, but to get stopped in that, it's tough to say what you're going to do with him from here.
Well, if you look at the first matchup that he came off of, the retiring, and let's not forget, when he retired, he was coming off of 2 losses. So now this is 4 in a row.
Yeah, that was a point that you made when we were talking about the hype of it in general when he was first coming back. You were talking about, like, hey, just so you know, there was 2 losses before this, so I don't know what we're going to see coming back from
That's
this.
another reason why I wanted to see the Matt Brown fight, because Matt Brown, remember, at one point was coming off of 4 losses before he came back and won. So that's why I thought that matchup made a lot more sense. But with Condit, it was like his last fight with Magny, he was shy on throwing shots. He wasn't being aggressive. He wasn't being his normal self whatsoever.
You could have chalked that up to ring rust, for
right.
sure.
He didn't look normal at all. Now, some fighters, when they're done, that's kind of what they look like. But it was like, well, he's been off for, 500 days, and who knows, maybe his next fight he'll look good. But the thing is, if you look at the stand-up last night with Oliveira, I don't remember him really being in the stand-up portion of this fight either. When it became grappling, he did he shined a little bit more. He was doing really well. He took advantage of some openings. But when it came to stand-up, I didn't really see him there either. So what that does to me is that terrifies me. Now I'm like, okay, so the only time that you're even coming close now is when it's on the ground, and that was off of like reversals down there. So it isn't like you're controlling the wrestling. You're being really shy in the stand-up, and people are, if they're aggressive, they're just teeing off on you. I don't know what matchup Carlos Condit could take right now that would be safe by any means.
Well, the thing with MMA at this right now, we're in such a progressionary period right now, and I think that's what we've kind of talked about over the last few months, is that there's a changing of the guard, and we're getting these younger guys coming in where if you don't adapt to this newer style, then it seems like it's death. And it feels like to me that where mixed martial arts is at now has passed Condit by, and he's just not adapted to what the newer style is, and he's continued to be set in his ways. And unfortunately, I think people have seen enough of that kind of fighter that it just doesn't do anything for him anymore. So it's interesting. I think you're right. I don't know if I want to see Condit again, because it's at this point it's borderline getting, you're burying his name. And at one point in time, he was a big guy, and to say, hey, now we're going to
title contender. I mean, I think actually, didn't he win the interim title?
Yeah, he was an interim champ.
He won an interim championship against Nick Diaz, I believe.
Yep.
And fought George St. Pierre. Yeah. I mean, at one time, he was one of the top guys in the world. And now, I'd be hard pressed to say that he could get a win in the top 15. That's why I have one matchup for him, though.
Okay.
One matchup that is a go home kind of like, we'll give you one last shot, and here it is, and it's a perfect or go home for two different guys, and it's a guy we've talked about in the past, coming off of 2 losses, Mike Perry.
That's
To
a good
me,
one.
I think you throw Mike Perry and Condit because I feel like it's another one of those things where it makes sense from all angles. From Mike Perry's point of view, this is a guy that we were hyping up. We loved him. He's a lot of fun. He's a hard hitter. He knocks guys dead. But when he was fighting younger guys, he was losing guys that had multifaceted games. He was losing like Ponzinibbio and Alan Jouban, and then the last fight that he lost. But when he fought some older dudes that were slowing down a little bit, he was knocking them dead. And why not throw him another guy that a former interim champion, guy that used to be one of the best in the world, looks like he's going out, but does have a multifaceted game that could potentially give Mike Perry problems. So from Carlos Condit point of view, if he kind of could look a little bit more vintage Condit, he should win a fight over Mike Perry. So to me, that's like do you have enough to just stick around a little bit more? And Mike Perry is that guy for me. Or for Mike Perry, it could be like, are you going to get a resurgence on a guy that used to be one of the best in the world?
Yeah, who are we going to place our stock in essentially from there? So.
Yeah. Who should go forward? I mean, if Condit loses that fight, then I'd say he should probably be done. And if Mike Perry loses that fight, it's does he belong in the UFC? That's both where they are, so you might as well figure those things out. At one point, it becomes, like you said, do you want to just bury Condit? Like, do you go, okay, well, here you go, Darren Till. Here do you go, Bohachina. Here's Carlos Condit. You know what I mean? Like, do you bury him like deathly? Sometimes I think it's right to do that. But when you see the writing on the wall, like he's on a 4-fight losing streak, I don't think you need to then bury the guy by giving him a terrible concussion. So give him a winnable fight. And the other guy needs a win too. I think Platinum Perry versus Condit, and from a business point of view, who wouldn't want to see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
What other fight out there can you find 6 losses in a row that you would love to see them fight? That's 4 losses in a row for Condit and 2 losses in a row for Mike Perry, and that could be a co-main or a third to last fight on a fight night card, and people would be like, I can't wait for that fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, find a better one.
All right, so let's talk about one of our favorites here, our up-and-comers, Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori last night. So very interesting to see where this was going to go. We saw a lot of we had some answers to questions in this for sure from this fight.
And a couple new questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got to see Israel. He still showed off some of his stand-up, but he looked a little bit more tentative. So he was going through there. We saw some really nice highlights. One of the things that I thought was hilarious we talked about was that at one point Israel had Marvin so confused that he hit him with an elbow and he thought he got poked in the eye.
That was
and
crazy.
so then he flips him off, and it was just a weird, very strange exchange. But then at one point, it shows that Marvin really should have changed his game plan earlier in the fight. He takes Israel down. He puts a lot of weight on top of him. He forces Israel to try and stand up over and over again, continues to score the takedown. We ended up getting a split decision from this. I thought,
which was some bullshit.
Yeah, it wasn't even close by that point. I think Israel easily won rounds 1 and 2, lost number 3. But we see some decent takedown defense from him in the beginning, but the problem is if he doesn't get the grips and things that he wants right off the bat, you see him start to drown very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's what was interesting is you can see him digging for that underhook and trying to get where he wants to be, but he has a really hard time that once that gets into deep water, defending that from there. So I'll take your thoughts.
It's kind of like when you in jiu-jitsu or anything else, we talk about when you need an answer to an answer to an answer, and you got to have multiple layers of answers. And it's like anything, this is a high level kickboxer. So coming over, he's going to have less answers to wrestling than everybody else. Obviously you only have so much time in MMA training to build up all your attributes. And this guy obviously works wrestling for one reason and one reason only, to keep it standing. And he may have the one layer down, like he showed in his last fight. regular shots, if he can get underhooks, keep his legs spread out, he's good. There it is, one layer, and I'm good. But then it was like, well, what if when a guy's around your waist and you're all spread out, then they switch to a single and they start putting all their weight on the single to where they're pulling you down to that hip. He's like, I'm not sure. And you could tell he didn't have an answer. And it just became a relying on athleticism. Like, can I just try to hop around? Can I just scoot over this way? You could tell he didn't have real life answers on, oh, dig this underhook, or, oh, get the whizzer over here, push the head over here, get separation this way or that way. It's like and we noticed that in the last fight. We said that exact thing. He has pretty good takedown defense, but what he needs to work on and get better at is separation. And because guys can reshoot, get attached, do chain wrestling, and that's what is going to get Israel down eventually. And that's pretty much what this fight showed us too. So though it was a quick turnaround, and though it was a little scary because we were like, man, is this a little fast? Is this a little too much? I also would say he needs to stay in this realm. He's so, from this fight, it's like, I don't want everybody to jump off the bandwagon just because it wasn't like him beating the shit out of somebody and TKOing them and then talking shit in the ring, right? But it still was a masterclass in striking. Well, I mean, his striking is unbelievably beautiful, really. You know, I mean, his attacks are just so nice. The amount of feints and the confusion that he causes, and then he can just hit you at will. I mean, at one point, he had Vettori just frozen to where he was just doing nothing. Yeah. And he could just choose whatever he wanted to hit that guy. It was beautiful. But I think if you stepped up the wrestler that he went against, this would be an easy dry hump loss. Right. You know what I'm saying? You throw a division wrestler against Adesanya right now who just can have a mild chin that would just shoot nonstop. He would just get taken down. They'd lay on top of him and take a boring win, and they go home and be totally fine with it. So I would not step him up wrestler-wise any further than what you're going with right now. Like college wrestler, I wouldn't do it if I was them.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, the thing I think we also need to point out too is it says a lot about Marvin's chin, because wasn't that he was not landing powerful strikes. Yeah. It's that Marvin was just able to eat them.
Absolutely.
And I think against a lot of other guys, it doesn't even make it to the third round. So let's give him some credit in that. He's a tough guy, and he continued to push forward. But you're exactly right. There are definitely going to be some answers there. Look, he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's still working towards this. And I think that the move that the UFC, with them staying on this track here, they just need to keep him right where he's going. I honestly think that the split decision might be a good thing, because it's giving him more in-ring experience, plus you're not going to have this huge push to try and get him into the higher-ranked guys now because of it. So we get a split decision. We get more experience from there. He gets more time to learn. We come into the next fight. We can push that same lower-level stuff again, continue to sell him, and go from there.
I feel like his next fight needs to be someone who's just a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Like, because the last two were mild wrestlers, guys that you knew were going to sort of shoot, not live and die on wrestling, but guys that were more than likely going to try to take him down every once in a while. Can he keep it standing enough to do his striking? He passed those tests. I almost feel like his next fight now needs to be all right, can we watch him strike now? Let's put him with a guy that has decent striking, that maybe has a couple wins by KO or TKO in the UFC. Not a big name, but maybe a mid-tier guy. I want to see that fight now. I want to see how he does against one of those guys. So, and what would be fun then is, does he end up getting one of those highlight reel KOs? Like, if you haven't seen Israel Adesanya's kickboxing highlights on YouTube, I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, it's some of the most ridiculous KOs you've ever seen in your life, where he's dancing and knocking people out. He's like a Michael Venom Page. I mean, he's very similar, really, in styles. So hopefully they will, match him up with the right guy.
I thought his personality still shined through and really at the end continued to make him sellable. So I think that was good.
He's critical of himself too, which I can appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in the last one, remember when he finished the guy in the third round, he kind of was like, I give myself a C-, and and then this one he didn't seem happy. I like that he's kind of critical of himself. I mean, because who knows, that may be the thing that drives him to next time be even better. One quick thing, did you read during the week or have you heard where he's annoyed by the comparisons to John Jones?
Oh, yeah, he hates it.
Isn't it I understand what he's saying, why he doesn't like that, because they are different. But the thing is, their faces look similar. Like he looks like a very skinny John Jones. He really does look like him. But the thing about that I thought was funny, I heard this week on MMA Fighting, they had it was like Sean Al-Shadi did a UFC Fight Night interview with DC. And he's talking to DC, and DC said when they start talking about Israel Adesanya, DC goes, well, actually, I've known Israel Adesanya for a little while, because when I was going to fight John Jones the first time,
he brought him into camp.
I brought in Israel Adesanya. I'm like, this is a guy that says that he's annoyed by comparisons to John Jones, but then DC brought him in to mimic John Jones.
Yeah.
Why would that annoy you then? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, just be the better version of him.
I thought that was so goofy. I was like, a lot of people must think and it must remind them of you. It must remind them of you being like John Jones, because like they're bringing you in their camp to mimic him.
That's hilarious.
Like, I mean, it's obviously closer than what you like to lead to. I mean, Jesus.
So let's talk about one of my favorite fights from last night. I think this one will fly under the radar a little bit, but you really should go back and watch it if you get a chance. Fight. The Courtney Casey versus Michelle Waterson fight last night was absolutely awesome. Very high pace, lots of good stuff. So we saw, and it's really two styles really conflicting. It was Michelle Waterson staying on the outside, trying to move quickly. Courtney Casey being the bigger of the two. Really had a lot of power, starts to land some leg kicks, slow Michelle down a lot, and we saw her really change her game plan throughout the fight. Hit some wonderful takedowns, see a lot more technique from there, but then as we go to the ground, she starts to land some ground and pound. Courtney Casey is then throwing up submission attempts and getting some that are really close, and watching Michelle defend and work her way back out of him and go from there, and ultimately we get a split decision win for Michelle Waterson.
Well, it's like at the very beginning, Michelle Waterson looked so sharp, so fast. And I'll tell you what this fight actually reminded me of, and tell me if you agree. And it almost makes sense that they're training partners, but it reminded me of like a Holly Holm Cyborg.
Yeah, for sure.
At the very beginning, because it's like they both have almost karate-ish styles, kickboxing styles that I'm not saying that they don't knock people out. It isn't like they don't, but they almost are touch fighters. You know what I mean? Like Michelle Waterson is touching you with these kicks. They're not the most powerful kicks in the world, but they're touching you. Light touches. She's very fast. And not trying to throw with a shitload of power also is what makes them so fast. But she's hitting Casey a lot. And every time, though, Courtney Casey lands, it becomes kind of the snowball, much like when Holly fought Cyborg. And you could tell this is the difference between those two fighters, though. Michelle Waterson has kind of learned over time how to use the ground game, how to use wrestling, and has really, she's been in MMA longer, so she has a really high MMA IQ.
Yeah.
And unlike Holly, that could all of a sudden make it a wrestling match, Michelle Waterson goes, okay, she's hurt me a couple times now. It's starting to pile on. It's time to switch this game plan and start taking her down and bring this to the ground and switch this up, because this is not working out. It's like I could land 15, 20 hits in a row, but if for every 20 I'm getting hit 3 and it's damn near knocking me over, I can't keep doing it. Eventually, I'm going to get KO'd here. And it's like she could see the writing on the wall. I just thought that was so smart to have that wherewithal, and that's why I could appreciate this fight looking back on it, because you just see game plans. Just this is trying to accomplish this, but then this is reacting this way. So you got to switch over to this. I thought it was just a very smart fight. And for the women's fight, I feel like they don't get enough credit for those kinds of things. And I thought this really kind of showcased that they're not much different than men fighters, And so she switches it and starts playing the takedown game, and she's sitting in the guard. She's trying to land ground and pound every once in a while. I mean, granted, it wasn't the most active thing, but Courtney Casey keeps cutting angles, trying to get the arm bar, and she wouldn't pull in her hamstrings, though. And I feel like that's an Eddie Bravo thing, and not pulling in your hamstrings is not an Eddie Bravo thing, but what an Americanized way of doing jiu-jitsu is, they name everything. And I like that Eddie Bravo, when he says arm bars and everything, they always say, you got to focus on your leg curls. Mm-hmm. And that is very important when it comes to arm bars is curling in your legs. Like when you have when you shave the face on an arm bar and you have them, because you don't want a person to look at you, right? So when you push them by like the ear and by the side of the face, when they shave and you put your thigh on the side of their face, it's because you want them to look away. You don't want them to be able to come into you and then be able to stack you and then kind of do the back step helicopter over you and end up in side control like it happened to Courtney Casey multiple times. It's you keep them nice and tight in, so now they're forced to stay looking away forever, hopefully, or you can break their arm by the time they look back at you. So where and Luke Thomas pointed this out too, when you end up seeing somebody's legs like sprawled out, like when she was doing the belly down ones and her legs were all the way extended trying to arm bar, and I get it looks close, you could still break someone's arm like that, but it's really not the way you're supposed to accomplish that arm bar.
Your leg position changes when you go belly down.
Right, it needs to go to the back of the head,
exactly.
And you need to try to flip them through. I mean, we teach this a lot too, and the way that you can learn this really well is to do this from the turtle position. That's where you get to really learn it. You get on the back in the turtle position, you go far arm over to, let's say you're on the back and you're trying to attack the left arm. You're going to take your right arm and hook over into the left arm. Then your right leg, your instep, is going to smash into the back of their neck. So now you go like you want to look in at their knees.
Yeah, like you're kicking a soccer ball on the back of their head.
And it becomes a little scissor sweep. You're pushing down on the head and lifting kind of up on the body. And it becomes a little scissor sweep. You make their legs and everything light while you're twisting the arm, and you kind of just shove them right through. And you in 10th Planet terms, we're not 10th Planet school, but we are Jean-Jacques school, so we're aware of 10th Planet stuff. And you can go right into the spider web from there. So, which is all things that are keeping legs tight is the point, So that kind of, though she was getting angles and she was threatening a lot, which is great, she also needs to work on the armbar a little bit on staying slightly tighter.
Yeah, none of them were really close until that very last one.
Right.
Every time Michelle did a very good job keeping her elbow just on the outside to where she could step over. And really, in reality, Courtney Casey is lucky she wasn't going against a better grappler, because a lot of times when you're continue to sell out on that arm bar and the elbow's not in and you allow somebody to step over, they take advantage of that and take position away from you.
And get side control legitimately.
Yeah.
That's the thing too is, and Michelle Waterson, and you don't want to overly like Monday morning quarterback, so I apologize when I say these kind of things, but it's like when you lose that arm, when you're getting arm barred and you back step over top of them, then you snatch up the head when you're coming back around and you can just get side control. Now, every time she would helicopter over, she would almost like disengage and let Courtney Casey get back to guard all over again. So we kind of did the like rinse, repeat thing over and over and over, where we went through the same thing like 3 or 4 times in a row. So at the end, though, it ends up being a split decision win for Michelle Waterson, and I'm not raising this was a robbery flag whatsoever, but I would have not been mad at a Courtney Casey win.
I absolutely agree.
Which would bring the question up, though, what is more important, right? So takedowns and some control or sub attempts, what wins?
Well, I think that the only argument, though, to me, I would love to put it on the intelligence of the judges itself, because I would say if you were listening to the commentary last night, you would think that Courtney Casey would have won that fight based on sub attempts.
Right.
But as we were watching it last night, I'm saying to myself, none of these are really that close. It looks like desperation stuff until that very last one. The last one was the only one I would have given her a legitimate, yes, that is a clear submission attempt, and it was close. So at that point, I say absolutely. But I think the way Michelle Waterson adapted her game plan, she won more of the fight, and I don't want to take away anything from the shots she was landing on the ground too. I mean, she was very aggressive on the ground when it came to landing strikes, and a lot of that is what put her in those positions anyway. And Courtney was she's losing the fight, and she was content to stay on her back versus trying to get up. Even at times when Michelle was disengaging and gave her plenty of opportunity to get back to her feet, she was not doing it, and that's where she was winning the fight. So I think in that aspect, I would have given the edge to Michelle, but I absolutely would not have been upset with a Courtney Casey win either.
Yeah, me too, because I it must be kind of how I look at the judging portion. I've talked about this multiple times, even with you. It's like, though, when people are shooting on the cage and they don't get the takedown, and people will consider that the shooters winning because they're controlling. But I'm like, I look at that as a fight, right? Like, so that's a different battle. There's a striking battle. There's a takedown battle. There's a ground battle. It's like, what are you looking for in this situation? If you're up against the cage and you're trying to take someone down and they're doing everything they need to do to keep you off them, and then they separate, I consider that them winning in a way. You wanted to take this to the ground. You weren't clinching to hit them. You clinched and tried to take them down, and you didn't get it. So I almost see that as like a small tick in their corner. Like, they stopped you from doing. So I can't really give you control just because you tried to shoot on somebody. That to me is you tried and you lost that little battle. That's a tick for them. So I kind of go back and forth. So when I look at the ground battle here, I think, okay, what was the goal? Michelle Waterson took her down, tick, right? Then she's on top. She lands mild strikes. She wasn't crazy active for me. I could have liked a little bit more action on top, and I probably wouldn't have thought it was so close. But she was almost just kind of hanging out at some points. Therefore, Courtney Casey's throwing up arm bars. She's trying to get angles. Michelle Waterson doesn't want that to happen. She wants to stay safe and give damage. Stay safe and give damage. So if I'm looking at how that is, it's like, if your goal is to either be not offering up anything or stay still and give damage, stay safe and give damage, she didn't really accomplish any of those things. Where Courtney Casey, she wants to either get up, which she seemed content with being on the ground, like you said, or go for subs. Well, like you said, some of them were closer than other ones, but she had tied up 3 or 4 arm bars. So when I look at those interactions and I say, well, who won this interaction? Who came out looking better in this interaction? I feel like Courtney did. Was there any point in time where she was just eating heavy shots for Michelle Waterson? No. Was she getting passed by Michelle Waterson? No. But when I'm looking at Courtney Casey, was she close to finishing armbar a couple steps away multiple times? Yes. Was one really close? Yes. When she did miss the armbar, did she get passed and get side controlled? Nope. Got guard back and went for another armbar. You know what I'm saying? It reminds me of Boss Rutan, like Kevin Randleman, how like Boss Rutan won the championship on the bottom with somebody because he stayed so active. At one point, it's like, just being on top isn't good enough.
Right.
You need to stay active and be landing shots and be trying to either progress the situation or beat them up. And when I look at it, I say Michelle Waterson didn't try to progress the situation and didn't beat her up. Therefore, I thought it was close. I didn't mind. It was that close to me where I was like, when I saw the split decision, I was like, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I could see, like, this could be a difference of opinion on how you score things. Like, if you see this as control and none of those arm bars were close enough, therefore I just see it as she was on top control the entire time, boom, she gets it. I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I'm not bothered by that whatsoever. But if somebody saw it in Courtney Casey's view, I kind of sold what I would see, what I think that person would probably get out of that. I would understand that too. So I really didn't mind whatsoever. But I always wonder that, isn't that kind of this fight is like the perfect down the middle fight to me. You know, it's like how many shots does a person have to land compared to how many hard strikes to win a round? You know what I'm saying? Like say there's a person's landing five punches per every one. But the one that keeps getting landed is knocking the person all over the ring, but the other 5, they're getting hit with them. It's like, well, what adds up to more? Because that's kind of what was happening with those two. Michelle Waterson, she's landing way more punches, way more kicks, but they're like smacks.
Well, it's the Joanna and Rose, where Joanna thought she won the fight.
Right. It's like you're landing a lot, but then you're getting mollywopped. Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to score sometimes.
Significant strikes have to be something that you play off. I kind of like that about the glory rules in the kickboxing is you can touch somebody as much as you want, but you get it's damage done to the fighter. And I kind of like that. I wish that the rules for UFC really stated that more and we emphasize that more because ultimately that's what wins you a fight, right?
Right.
Damage to the fighter should be number one.
That's a good point. Well, I didn't really think about it, but when you say it like significant strikes, that doesn't mean strikes. That means significant.
Yeah.
The more significant fight, it strikes. That actually makes sense. I never really dug back into that, but that actually does make a lot of sense now I think about it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's move forward to in general that card last night was fantastic.
Yeah,
A lot of
had
other
an
good
omoplata win in there. That was crazy.
We did second one in UFC history, so that was fun. But we also had Bellator on Friday, so we have Michael Chandler versus Brandon Gertz. This was a really fun fight as well.
Gertz is a wild motherfucker. Andy.
Yes, he is.
He went for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But always good to see Michael Chandler back in the cage. He weathered the storm essentially and hurt Brandon Gertz, and then ended up finishing dislocated
head arm triangle.
But before that, he dislocated his shoulder. He dislocated Brandon's shoulder. I can't remember exactly how, but he came through and finished an arm triangle, and it was
unconscious.
Yeah, he went out on his shield.
Oof.
That's for sure. So it was a really fun fight. You can watch that online and go back and watch that. But it was a lot of fun.
I feel like Michael Chandler brings a little bit of clout to the term "big fish in a small pond."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How much money is that guy making to beat somebody like, and I'm not saying that a guy like Gertz is not a respectable fighter by any means, but I'm saying on a Bellator stage, even if you really dabble in Bellator every once in a while, a guy like Gertz, I'm sure you have no idea who the fuck Gertz is, right? So it's like, for Michael Chandler, like if that guy is making hundreds of thousands in any of these fights, he might be the smartest guy alive.
He for sure is, because
he should never go to the UFC. Like, for me, do I want him in the UFC? 100%. I want him to go to the UFC and go top 5 right away. I just want to see what that looks like. I bet it would be awesome. But from like a life standpoint, if I was Michael Chandler, dude, I would marathon this motherfucker, dude. Like, fuck the 100-yard dash of the UFC. Stay over here and run this fucking 45K. Just long term, dude.
You are the face of Bellator. I mean, and you have managed to do enough over there that you have put yourself in contention for best in the world by never fighting any of those guys.
And the thing is like, granted, people will always go, how good could he have been? Could he ever have made it over here? But you know what? You're going to be rich.
Yep.
You're going to be straight up rich. You're still going to be a badass. No one's going to ever think you're a pussy. And people are always going to think you were probably one of the best in the world, because he has wins over some of the best in the world that were not in the UFC at the time. So
it's not all about the glory for some people. Different people have different agendas. And he does everything exactly right. I mean, the interview last week with Pitbull on it was fantastic.
He's selling it.
He's doing all the right things to make sure he makes as much money as possible. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, creating grudge matches in a promotion that people don't necessarily watch as much as the UFC, it's like, that's just so smart, because he's on aerials and he knocked out one of the Pitbull brothers, and then the other one, jumped in the on top of the cage and was yelling at him, and even though he's a 145er, and Chandler's on Ariel's show yelling at him, saying, I already knocked out your sister. And then Pitbull brother starts yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so smart, because the next fight, it's like, why would you not want him versus like the smaller Pitbull bro? Why not? I don't know. Like, I know he should fight Brent Primus and get his title back, because he lost it at Madison Square Garden off of like his foot being injured.
And still almost won.
Yeah, and has won like 2 fights since then. Which is even kind of crazier how that fight still is not happening. But I think Primus was injured or something.
He pulled out. Yeah,
because this was supposed to be that fight. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm just like, how smart is he at the end of the day? I couldn't help but think this when I saw this fight. I'm like, this guy is so smart. Like, I want to know how much he makes, because I'm not sure. I would love to know if he makes over $200K. Then he's the smartest one of the smartest fighters out there right now.
Never takes any damage, has put enough onto his name. That
not getting drug tested.
Yep.
And that's another thing too. And I'm not trying to say that he is on drugs, but from like a keeping your body even mildly healthy, even if he's fucking microdosing just to keep his body halfway together, because MMA fighters, what they're putting their bodies through, they need to take care of themselves as much as possible. Even if you're just getting that little edge, I'm not saying that he's just blowing out the roids like a Hector Lombard, but if he's even getting a quarter dose of what Lombard was on, then good.
An eighth.
Good. Get him on an eighth of what he was on, and just keep him healthy, keep making your millions per year. He's got like a kid, wife, living the dream, poster boy, good looking, jacked. People will always consider him one of the best. He's one of the smartest dudes in the world right there, man. He doesn't get enough credit.
When you make it through a fight and your hair doesn't even get messed up, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on.
And he can do backflips just like standing there.
Yeah.
I always thought that was cool. I couldn't do it. I'd land on my head.
I don't have the wherewithal to jump backwards.
I try to do backflips on like a trampoline. I swear I
Fall
get flung off every time. I can do front flips all day. Backflip, I'm landing in the trees for some
literally
reason.
scorpion myself.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me.
All right, so this week we found out that Nick Diaz has made a deal with USADA, and he is eligible to fight at the end of this week and return next week.
Yeah, I don't really know the situation. This is one of the weirdest situations I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm so confused because somehow we find out this week that he accepts a 1-year suspension now. It's like, but it's a retroactive suspension. He accepts a suspension now, and he's eligible to fight next week. And I was scratching my head, like, wait, so has he been suspended for the last year? So I guess what they're saying is he had violations in 2016, in the beginning of 2017, and I guess the reason we haven't seen him for the last year is because he's been, air quotes, suspended. I suppose that's what they're trying to say.
All you need to know is that he is able to come back.
What's the first thing you do? He's back. Now what?
Dude, I don't even know. It's been so long since I've seen Nick Diaz that I would have to go back and even watch fights to familiarize with myself.
I don't think
with him
he's
again.
won in 11 years. It's been a long time. I don't know the last time that he won, but it's been a minute.
Is he coming back? I mean, is that happening?
I don't know. Because even when he was eligible, he seemed like he didn't want to fight. I'm just hoping he'll come back for like one more.
Yeah.
This is the one. So we can expedite this. Because somehow we've been rambling. I cannot believe what time it is. We're going to only do fight talk and then do one video.
Okay.
And then we'll have to get the fuck out of here. Where are we at on time?
We're an hour and 6 minutes.
How is that possible? Okay. So Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler 2, hurry up.
I'm all about that.
There it is. The rematch that we've been needing since UFC.
Oh God, he's going for it.
40. I don't know. It's like UFC 45 or some shit. But I'm gonna say it's in the 40s. But where at the time Nick Diaz coming on, Robbie Lawler was like the dude who's knocking guys dead, screaming in the ring like a psychopath. To me, and then remember Nick catches him, makes him do, yes!
47.
Yes, I said 45.
Hell
Hell yeah, that close. And that was an undercard. That wasn't some big touted fight.
One of these days we're going to play that game that we've always wanted to do.
Yeah,
he has this unreal ability to be able to recall UFC numbers, and it will make you sick to your stomach. That's
I'm not like some of these people where like Ariel Helwani can do that too on some of them.
Yeah, because he was there.
Right.
That's not fair.
Yeah, it isn't
That's not
as
fair.
But he does it, and then he had someone else that was on the show, and they were like, okay, you can only say post 2010 main events that were pay-per-views. He's got a very like specific, like, I actually am like better the later you go.
Yeah.
Like UFC 1 through 110, I can probably do top 3 or 4 fights and how they went, what happened on every single one of those cards.
You've hit prelims too on some of them where I'm like, stop it.
And don't make me talk like UFC 1 through 13. I could probably do UFC 1 through 13 and say like the first match was Gardeau, the big tall guy who fought the Hawaiian guy and then kicked his tooth out, and then go to the next one, and then go to the next one, and then I could probably tell you entire fart cards too. I could tell you entire fight cards, and it's disgusting.
I've done it too, where we've said, I'm like, okay, this is the fight, this is when it happened, what was the finish, and when did it happen?
Yeah.
And you're even better at that.
I don't know why.
Yeah, you're even better at that. Like,
that shit's fun.
Now you could even do that with the ones after 110.
So what we need though is Nick Diaz versus Robbie, because back then Robbie is just being a psychopath. He gets goaded into a firefight. Nate lands his hook that just makes Robbie Ric Flair. I mean, he just like goes woozy where his head and body literally goes in a circle and he falls face down. It was so bad. It was awesome. Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz ended up like leaving the organization, going out and doing other shit. Then he ends up going and fighting in Pride, and then he does at like Pride 33. He ends up hitting the Gogo Plata on Gomi. Then he comes back, and then it was awesome. And then Robbie's out in like Bodog, and then he's in Strike Force, and then he's in Bodog. Remember, then he kills Matt Lindland. I mean, he just murders Matt Lindland. Poor Matt Lindland, R.I.P. And then he goes over to like Strike Force. And then, is fighting crazy-ass fights over there, too, that were awesome. Like Melvin Manhoof.
I was going to say, what was the crazy one you showed me where he got his ass beat?
Melvin Manhoof, where he's just leg kicking him all over the place. I mean, he makes his leg, like Melvin Manhoof kicks Robbie Lawler in the leg, and his leg, I mean, to check some of them where he lifts his leg, it makes his leg go all the way up to like his head, like he's going to head kick somebody.
It's ridiculous.
And then he ends up catching him with a hook and his flatlines him. Thank God. And then right after, Robbie's going like, fuck. Like he's trying to walk and he's just going, fuck, fuck. If you've never seen that fight, Robbie Lawler versus Melvin Manhoof, it is one of the craziest fights of all time. So then he gets back to the UFC, goes on the Robbie Lawler run, right? I mean, where he just murders everybody. And you get all the classic fights, all the classic wars. And then now he's on a little bit of a skid. He's not looking the same. Nick Diaz is coming off of a long layoff, but people still love him. They love his brother. His brother's somehow become even bigger than him nowadays. Now's the time to do it. Boom! Play that as the trailer.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll narrate it.
All right, so let's talk about some grappling events from this weekend.
And this week.
Yeah, so Quintet, which is a new one. You may not have heard much about it because it kind of dropped relatively quick. So this is a grappling promotion that is being put on by Sakuraba and Josh Barnett.
Good duo.
And what is interesting about this is they're kind of borrowing some rules from a professional wrestling on this. So it's called Quintet because essentially we're doing 5-man teams, and it runs like Survivor Series. So what happens is you have each of the competitors, they run on a team, and there are some different rules based on weight on how long the match is going to be, and your team has to be under a certain amount of weight. It's really worth looking into because it's pretty cool. So what they do is number one and number one for each team will face off. If the match ends in a draw, they're both out. And
so wait, they face off. So like they're okay. So there's 5 guys. Let's say 5 guys on the left, 5 guys on the right, and then what? Like so. There's a Polaris team. There's several different teams, right?
Yes.
So Craig Jones, who at least we know, so we can understand what's going on here, because I don't know, so I'm trying to work through the details.
No, you're fine.
Craig Jones, he's on the Polaris team,
correct?
Right? So you're going to take Craig Jones, walk him out, and then he goes against whoever from the other side, or do they have their designated guy that he's this weight class, or can they pick anybody?
Before the match, they have to tell the other team what their order is going to be. So they designate
in order of like, okay, so the grappling matches, this guy's going first, this guy's going second,
correct?
He's going third, okay.
So what?
And then the other team picks their order,
correct,
to combat that.
No, they both convey them to each other.
Yep.
This is the order that we have. Boom, there it is. And so what they do is,
and then they have a Royal Rumble.
It is a Survivor Series. So what it is number one goes against number one. If one of the guys submits the other one, then the guy who submitted him stays in, and the guy who loses goes out.
Oh, so this is like what we do in the gym.
So the first one to finish the entire other team wins. That the teams win. So if
that's pretty cool.
If it goes to a draw, then both teams move on to their next guy.
I play this game at the gym.
Yes.
I make you guys do this.
So
I take out the jump rope thing, and then I put people on the one side, and then I put the jump rope on the other side, and we do this. But in my version of it, I let you tag your partners. So if you're in trouble, say you're getting footlocked or something, you can tag your partner in, and then they can come in and save you. And I always push for you to be a little dirty.
Yeah.
I say like what, just like wrestling, where you tag, the tag isn't good enough. It doesn't mean you just let go. You got to be a little dirty, like hold the guy in a bad position.
You get like a 10-second count.
You get a 10-second cheat. Like you can hold them in a bad area to where you may like your partner can get their back or something. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let me tell you, the turtle position is your best friend in that.
Oh, yeah. Dang, dude. That sounds pretty cool.
So, and let me tell you, undercover here, the most entertaining part of the entire card, don't skip through it, is at the beginning, there are all these little Japanese guys who are demonstrating what the rules are and what's legal and illegal in khaki pants, white shirts, and ties, and it is one of the most entertaining things ever.
Where can you watch this?
This is on Fight Pass.
Oh, it's on Fight Pass.
Yeah,
okay.
so it was awesome. It dropped really all of a sudden. We heard about it at first last week. So some of the names that were in it that I recognized really quickly. I'm not 100% through the event yet, but it's been good so far. Craig Jones is in it. They have a Polaris team, and then there's another team that Josh Barnett and Sakuraba are both on.
So they're on it.
Yeah, they're
competing.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So we may get like a Craig Jones Sakuraba at one point?
Yeah, for sure.
Please.
Yeah, so I gotta make it the rest of the way through that, but it's definitely worth watching. It's cool to see a fresh rule set come to grappling and make it more entertaining. So it's been really fun.
Dude, I'll tell you what though, like out of that event, though we can't talk too much about the event because I didn't see it. But what I did see was the highlights of Craig Jones. I feel like that guy, like everybody, you have to know who he is right now. And what's crazy is he's not from a huge team like everybody else in the world. I feel like there's a bunch of guys out there that you're like, oh yeah, Matthew Denise, like who we'll talk about soon, is like, from Marcelo Garcia's. This guy is from Atos. Keenan was originally from Lloyd Irvin's and then went to Atos. Everyone comes from these teams that oh yeah, I know that team. Oh, I know that team. But when it comes to a guy like Craig Jones, it's like, wow, he comes from Lachlan Giles in Australia. It's really interesting that he's coming from a team that isn't really known for being some powerhouse, but he beats some of the best guys in the world, and he's becoming crazy popular. He's become almost like a little folk hero.
Yeah, you get to see a lot of, and every time he grapples, you see more and more of his game too. So you go through there, and then what's crazy is, so we will move into to last night a little bit.
Yeah.
So he travels from Japan on Wednesday then he travels to New York for Kasai Pro 2 on our last night.
That's awesome.
So, and he ended up winning third place last night. He did a couple of finishes. If you're not familiar with that tournament, it's a round robin. So he ended up losing. He was in third, or he was tied for third and lost on. It was tied for third, and he finished. He lost head to head with the gentleman who beat him. I think it was Mike Perez.
Yeah.
And he ended up losing that and go to third place, and then faced Boogeyman Martinez for third place, and ended up winning. He submitted him. So he looked really good in that though. We saw some different stuff from him, a lot more top game. It was a lot of fun.
I feel like it's something that you end up seeing though with guys like him and leg lockers in general. Guys that are leg lockers who still have really well-rounded games stereotypically go top to bottom. They're either like leg locking low or they're triangling high. You see that from him a lot. He's either like triangling somebody or leg locking somebody. Triangling somebody or leg locking somebody, because like the natural defenses of the two feed the other, So I love watching that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also had a couple of more super fights on that as well. We had Eddie Cummings, who won.
What happened in that match? Because I did not see it whatsoever.
So Renato Canuto, he was played a lot of top game. Obviously, it's kind of what we expected there. It was very standoffish for a while. Canuto got penalized for stalling at one point, and then he tried to implement the same kind of deal where it seemed like he was holding out for the points section of the match, and then at the end, Eddie was able to get deep onto his leg a couple of times, and it kept going through. And then at the end, Eddie got deep enough on a heel hook as the match was ending that he was able to get a point for a submission attempt. It was deep enough, and that's what ended up winning the match. He got a point.
Okay.
He would have won anyway, even with the penalty there.
Okay.
But he ended up winning the fight at the end,
okay.
Getting awarded 1 point. And then we had Nicky Ryan versus Gio Martinez,
dun.
which was absolutely amazing. And we just watched this before the podcast, so I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of it.
Yeah, you got to pit stop that. So it's like, first of all, you got to remember how this match was made with Nicky Ryan and Gio. It was like, Gordon Ryan shit-talking Gio nonstop online, trying to crowdfund money and Bitcoin, and it was like a big thing. And then it became, it was really going to happen. It was going to happen at Kasai. So props to them for making this happen, because people wanted it, And after watching the match, it felt surreal at first. I was like, dang, I can't believe this like 16-year-old kid is getting ready to go against a black belt who is a mainstay.
Is he going to be the biggest grappler ever?
Man, I don't see how he can't. I mean, he's 16 and already going against some of the absolute best in the world, and he keeps getting better. I mean, he's getting better by leaps and bounds all the time. I mean, it's wild to watch. And he's only been grappling 3 years, which makes even less sense. Which, I mean, on an overall standpoint, I swear it blurs the lines of jiu-jitsu a little bit, for real. Because he's been training 3 years, and he could probably stop if he really felt like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of just knowing what you need to know to be able to go against the absolute best black belts in the world and even stay remotely close, that's something that most of us will never do, will never be ever. You could be a guy that just stays in the gym your entire life and trains like a normal person, gets your black belt in some 15 to 17 years, and you wouldn't be able to sniff Nicky Ryan's jockstrap when he was 14 years old. You probably would have nothing for after you're 17. A 14-year-old, probably Nicky Ryan, would fuck up me, any guy as a black belt, whatever. It's just it's crazy. So in this match, it's like I was really interested to see how Gio would play this match because I thought that an aggressive Gio could probably expose a guy like Nicky Ryan because I don't know how multifaceted Nicky Ryan's game was. And I told you this, I didn't want to take away from the performance, and I'm not taking away from the performance because I'm going to more than celebrate Nicky Ryan. But I thought, and tell me if you agree, I thought that did not look like a normal Gio Martinez.
Absolutely. I told you that last night because we were texting back and forth. You wanted to know kind of what was going on. And as I was watching, I was like, Gio is being he's being super defensive, and he doesn't seem aggressive at all. He doesn't want to go forward with anything, and he's kind of sitting back and just waiting to see what happens. And Nicky was being overly aggressive. At certain points, he's trying to force him to do Gio to do something, because he's sitting back on his heels so much, and it got really weird at certain points.
It was really fun. Like the match is more than worth finding. Like if you can get on Flow Grappling and watch them, it's more than worth watching because what's great about it is when Nicky tries to be offensive, Gio has to respect it, and Nicky gets damn close on a lot of different things. But what you'll kind of see is, and if you watch enough competition or an upper level grappler at all, you'll kind of know what I mean by there are times in the gym that say you're tired. Like I have dangerous training partners that if you don't mind your P's and Q's, you better watch your ass, right? So when you're going full energy at them, and you're fighting back and forth, you can maybe make things happen, force them down a bad road, and maybe catch them. But sometimes when you're going against that dude who's really dangerous, and maybe you just came off of a war of like 2 rolls, and now you're tired, and now you go into like preservation mode, if that makes sense. And maybe it's somebody that you're like, I don't want to drop one to this guy just because maybe he's a dick or, who knows. And it's like you get into preservation mode. Like you're going to get into certain spots and guard. And when you're become kind of a crafty veteran in grappling, you have little ways of taking time off the clock. You know what I mean? Like I put my hand, I get to Z guard, and instead of going through and trying to pass and move forward or do something, I'm cupping the top leg. I'm weaving through and now cupping the top leg so that he can't do too much, but neither can I, and we kind of sit here. And there goes 15 seconds. You know what I mean? And then I get into like an ashi in a way, but I also grab the other leg. But I keep the inside control with my one knee, and I just sit there. There goes 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying? He almost came off, and I'm not saying that it's dumb. It's smart. It's a crafty, older grappler way of doing things. But to me, he came off like a guy that was fighting, like, if I can catch Nicky fucking up, and I can submit him like that, or get his back or something, awesome. I would love to do that. But I'm also trying to not lose.
Yeah.
That is what really comes off this match when you're watching it. You can tell that Nicky almost is like I don't give a shit. I'm just going to go for it. If I lose, I lose. It doesn't really fucking matter. And if I make a mistake, whatever. And that comes through when you're watching it. But you can tell Gio is going that if I can if Nicky makes a mistake and I can get his back, you can see him. He goes for the back a couple times, doesn't get it. But outside of that, he never really is offensive ever. I mean, there's no time where Gio is going for a legit heel hook or going for a triangle, or he never shoots for anything, because usually, stereotypically, when you do those things, that's when you can get caught. Someone can kind of counter you and then expose you and then now submit you. So to me, this match, he fought like he didn't want to lose. You got to watch Gio in other matches. We've seen him in ADCC. We've seen him in EBI. We've seen this guy. Gio is an aggressive grappler who goes at people so hard. That was not who we saw last night.
No.
That was not him at all.
No.
That felt like a guy, that looked like a guy that did not want to lose to a 16-year-old kid from a team that they've taken some L's from, and he didn't want to give up another one of those highlight reel losses.
Absolutely.
Which is actually the paradox of this entire thing, because I thought if he went at Nicky hard, I think he has a more well-rounded skill set to expose Nicky. I really do. I think if he was aggressive and put it on the line, he could have probably put Nicky on his heels. But the fact that he fought like a guy that didn't want to lose instead of fighting like a guy who wanted to win kept him behind the entire match. And it ends up, Nicky ends up playing bottom, playing top. He's going for passes. He's trying to X-pass nonstop. He's he gets a couple leg entanglements. When he plays the bottom, he's shooting for the arm drags. He's trying to get into Ashi. He's shooting a couple triangles, getting close on a couple different ones. And then finally the match ends with he kind of goes underneath the right leg, which is a little thing that we play with, and he has the foot on the hip, and you can go into a leg entanglement from there. You can shoot an omoplata from there, or you can, since you've changed the angle of it, a lot of people don't see the triangle coming, and he goes right into a triangle on Gio, and it's not inverted, but it's like a side. You're not right in front of somebody. You're off to the side, kind of like what what Gordon Ryan does, where he's like off to the side, kind of what he did at the last Metamoris super fight. He doesn't finish it right in front of you. He finishes it kind of off to the side. So he had that on him, on Gio at the very end of the match. And I mean, it is locked in, and he starts Kimuring the trapped arm. So it's like, it looked like one of those things where, man, if there was a minute left, it's likely Nicky would have got a finish.
And while Nicky, he probably would have won on judge's decision anyway, that pretty much cemented it anyway. There was no doubt, and it's to me, it was the perfect way to end that match, is that finally him being aggressive paid off.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. So let's also talk about AJ Agazarm versus Marcos Galvao, because as a guy who is normally not very aggressive, we saw an extremely aggressive AJ, and he was super fun to watch.
He was a lot of fun.
And attacking legs. He didn't wrestle very long. Went through and started going to 50-50 multiple times. He attacked and eventually played it to the point he was playing a lot of close guard as well.
Yeah.
And going underneath, and then eventually attacked and was found a heel hook. So that's a really fun fight too, if you can find that online.
It was nice also to see AJ in a little different light for once. He actually was kind of fun. Oh, did you see this week the John Jones Twitter beef?
Let me see if I have it on here.
Yeah,
yes, I do.
Dude,
yes.
This is some of the best shit talking I've ever seen, because it gets way too personal, and at one point it's like kind of weird. I don't really understand what made these two beef for the last 3 years somehow. But yeah, okay, so you have it. This is some of the funniest shit in the world. I don't know how little Tyson Griffin ends up fighting with John Jones. Now, to be fair, Tyson Griffin comes off like a kind of a little troll and all this, to be honest with it. And now, does John Jones go way overboard with his response? Possibly, and kind of come off like a prick. Whatever. I kind of like it, but I thought this beef was hilarious.
So first of all, Tyson Griffin posts and says, well, there goes, this is after the Conor McGregor incident, there goes Conor McGregor's losing his Burger King deal faster than John Jones lost his Nike deal, or did he? More money, more problems. And then John Jones writes back and says, my dream was to be sponsored by Nike as a high school wrestler, become an adult, and make it happen.
Made it happen.
I'm sorry. And then even had my own sneaker, which sold out within a day.
That's not fair to say, though. There was only 6. No, I'm just kidding.
And so then he goes on again. He posts another tweet. Whatever happened to your Nike deal? I don't remember it. I'll wait.
Do you ever notice that John Jones, like when he's shit talking someone, he's like a mad ex-girlfriend? Like he doesn't write once. Like
No.
he can't just let it stay. He's like, and another thing, and another thing.
He posts something and then he remembers something else.
Yeah,
I'll
he
post
comes
that
back.
too.
He comes back 15 times.
Then he goes, you can tell by the tone of your tweet that you're happy Conor may be losing his deal. Disguise yourself as an MMA coach or an MMA personality. I just see a bitter bitch who's the size of my dick.
Okay.
And then he goes, that last part was more for me. Just proud of myself. Thought it flowed nicely. And then, so Tyson then replies
This is
back
some weird catty shit right here.
where he posts messages that John Jones sent to him privately, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So John Jones sent messages in saying, Tyson, I'm sitting on about $8 million cash. I have $2 million in real estate. I won the UFC belt 9 times. I'm internationally famous. I'm 6'4". You, on the other hand, I'm guessing 5 feet flat. I'm guessing with the net worth of $100,000. Never won any titles. Can walk around without anyone giving a fuck who you are or what you do. My point is, you and I, as UFC athletes, are not even close to being on the same level. I'm guessing that's why you're constantly attacking me. It's understandable. You've literally and figuratively, like a boy, compared to someone that's bad.
Like me.
Oh yeah.
Go to the next one. There's another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to someone like me, I'm actually questioning myself as I'm writing this, thinking, why am I even giving you the time of day? Every time I turn around, you're writing me some bullshit. Why do you try so hard to get my attention?
Yeah. When I originally looked at this, Tyson put this out to make John look bad. But if you really read into what John said, it comes off like Tyson must have been fucking with him enough to where John felt the need to then come ridicule him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Tyson actually looked like shit on that. I thought he actually looked dumb in this.
I agree.
Because it's like he mentioned twice in that long thing that he just wrote you. Granted, is he talking mad shit to you, calling you like a little guy and he's rich, but in all that, he keeps saying, you keep writing me this bullshit. Why do you keep attacking me? So clearly you must be shit talking him enough to where he's like, you know what, dude? Fuck you. I'm about to talk some real shit to you, But then you post it like he was just writing you that randomly or some shit.
Yeah. And then Tyson Griffin comes back and talks about him being a role model. And then Jones replies to that saying, it's hilarious that you reposted our private messages. I meant every word I said. At first, I thought your hatred was DC related, but now I'm starting to think that you're just an envious little bastard. At the end of the day, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty fun shitting on you. Just because I'm the bigger man doesn't mean I have to sit back, be quiet, and listen to your cyber attack. Hope this gained you a few more followers. I'm sure you will reply to my last message. Be quiet for a while and come out with more hatred in a few months. It's your pattern. You're cute, my little pet. So
I like this, man.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought that was like an absolute toasting.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Griffin should just stop his account, go over to Instagram for a little while, and just let it go. So one other thing. So let's talk this UFC 225.
Okay.
And then we'll do that one grappling video,
Okay.
and then the best video of all of them.
Okay.
And then we'll be out of here.
I know we had to set up a timeline because we're burning through.
There's the timeline. So this week, if anybody did not hear about this, they announced. I think Undercover UFC 225 was becoming some stacked card, and we didn't even know about it. It's like we heard little fights here and there, like, oh, it seems like it's coming along, but I don't know how many people were looking at the card of UFC 225. But everyone did look at it this week, more than likely, because they announced Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. So for the ill-informed, everyone's been waiting for Megan Anderson to come over, the former 145 champion in Invicta, one of the only other natural 145ers out there.
And she has a huge social media presence,
Yeah.
so people know who she is.
She has like a show. I think she has a podcast and some other things. And with Megan Anderson, everyone was like, oh, we want Megan Anderson to fight Cyborg because she's one of the other 145ers in the world. And Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson, what better way to come in than to fight somebody that, granted, she was not close to beating Cyborg, but she probably did the best against Cyborg of anybody in a really long time. So does Holly get herself a rematch? Does Megan show that she's here and she's an actual contender and she should fight her? And it's the very first 145 women's fight that hasn't been a title fight.
Oh, I love it.
Which is crazy how it took that long. But with that, everyone goes, oh, so now Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson on the Chicago card. That is awesome. Well, what else is going on the Chicago card?
CM Punk.
And then, yeah, and then you look at the card and you say, holy shit, this thing is stacked,
Yes,
son.
it is. I didn't realize it until I'm looking at this, but I'm like, wow.
You got 2 title fights, and then I know the order. They have the order kind of fucked up because really I feel like your co-main events under your title fight should be Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson.
Well, they just have everything listed on their main card. Yeah, they'll divide it up.
So
I'm sure.
it's like Robert Whitaker versus Yoel Romero for the 185 title. All right, sick, because that rematch is crazy. You got 2 of the best 185ers in the world, no doubt. Perfect match. Then you got a rematch. I mean, not a rematch. Sorry. You got an interim title for 170 pound. Does it make any sense? No. Did it make more sense when it was in Brazil at least? Yes. Does it make any sense being in Chicago? Not at all. But hey, it's a title fight. So you got Rafael dos Anjos versus Colby Covington. Okay, so you got 2 title fights for whatever it's worth.
Let's kill this guy off, please, Scott.
Then you got Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. Sick fight, right?
Yes.
But then you got Joseph Benavidez coming back versus Sergio Pettis. Incredible fight. Then you got Claudia Gadelha fighting the former champion at the weight class, Carla Esparza. Alistair Overeem versus Curtis Blades. Andrei Arlovsky versus Ty Tuivasa. What? So you got, remember we were talking about this beforehand, the fact that you got the older guys kind of fall into these new guys. And who are we talking about? Curtis Blades is one of them. Tai Tuivasa is another one of them. And you have those 2 guys fighting 2 of the older mainstays. So you get Alistair Overeem on there. You get Arlovsky on there. And then you look down, you get an old school fighter like Rashad Evans fighting Anthony Smith, who Anthony Smith is no joke. He does tend to break every once in a while, but he's a big dude. That's a scary fight. You also got
Ricardo Lamas is on this.
Ricardo Lamas on there versus Bektik, and you got the return of CM Punk. What the fuck?
What do you put on Fight Pass?
This card is crazy.
Dude, it's crazy.
Like, I don't know. It's like Santiago versus, I don't know who. You got Courtier versus Crowder. I mean, it's like, maybe you put Rashad Evans, but then again, you might want to have him on like the FS1 card to pull in those views. I mean, the main card, if you're picking 5 fights, Whitaker, Romero, dos Anjos, Covington, and then you got Overeem, Blades, and then you probably want the girl fight, Gadelha, Esparza. I feel like Benavidez and Benavidez and Pettis should probably be the main event of an FS1 of the FS1 portion.
Yeah, because I think Arlovsky and Tuivasa will probably make it on the main card, don't you?
But then you got Punk Jackson's going to be on the main card.
On the main
to
card?
Sell pay-per-views. Oh yeah, I guarantee he's at least the first fight on the main card.
Really?
It has to be. It has to be, unless they want to. My thing is
he was on Fight Pass last time, right? Or was he on?
Oh, he was on the pay-per-view. He was a third.
What?
He was a third to last fight on the Cleveland card when Stipe fought.
I forgot about that. I fucked that up. Okay. I thought he was lower for some reason.
Yeah, he was on the pay-per-view.
Dude, somebody's gonna get snubbed and get put on Fight Pass.
That's the thing. People they want people to buy pay-per-views, and I would imagine that's what he's going to do. So if you put him on FS1, how many people that are wrestling fans are just going to stop in and then bounce?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't want that. Or was he enough of an embarrassment against Mickey Gall back then that they say, let's dial this back and put him on Fight Pass to where people get Fight Pass? There's a lot of different ways you can play this. I always think that they want to squeeze the last drip out of the orange, So to me, they'll probably throw him on the main card just to get that last bit of money.
That's fucking crazy to think about.
That'd be nuts. Can you imagine who he's going to end up pushing off? You're going to push off either Overeem, Arlovsky, Claudia Gadelha, Benavidez, Holly Holm, and Anderson. Like, if you push any of those people off, it's sacrilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should be the co-main event on FS1. Like co-main on the FS1. Yeah. So it's Benavidez coming back against Sergio Pettis, and then right before that, let it at least be CM Punk. I can't even believe that we still call him CM Punk when he has an actual name.
His name's fucking Phil.
Yeah. So when we see Phil fight Mr. Jackson,
yeah, Phil Brooks.
Get it out there. I think you just put it the first fight on Fight Pass, and let's move on.
All right, so we're gonna watch.
Dude.
The grappling video.
Dude, you gotta watch this video. So it was because of somebody at my work. They were like, "Hey, what's up with this Khabib wrestling a bear or something?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess when he was like 10 years old, he was grappling some bear." I've always heard of this video, and I may have seen a couple seconds of the video. I almost know of the video more than I've actually watched the contents, if that makes sense. Like like 2 girls, 1 cup. I realized that it was some video that was popular, but I gotta admit, I've never sat around and watched 2 girls, 1 cup. I'm aware of what it is.
Yeah.
I've never sat and watched beginning to end. I don't know that much about it. So to me, that's what Khabib versus the Bear is. It's my 2 girls, 1 cup of MMA. I understand that it exists, but I never really watched the video.
Yeah.
All right. So I kind of wanted to watch it.
We're gonna break it down.
Yeah. Oh, I want to. Oh man, whoa! Is this a pet bear or something like that?
Yeah,
How does it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. He's going for a single leg on the bear, and the bear straight up shucks his leg out.
The bear is still chained to a tree right now.
Oh my gosh! So Khabib is on top. He's trying to get side control. The bear has him almost in a mild guillotine, trying to get his arm out and get some base under him. He's pushing him away, getting the distance. Oh man, Khabib! Oh, Khabib gets reversed. Khabib is on the bottom. Oh no! He's shooting for the single.
Now watch the defense. He's going to go over top. He's going to wrap his arms around.
Khabib. Oh, the slow single leg. Good job, Khabib. The bear's got a mild guard.
Yeah.
Okay. The bear's back up. Oh, shit. The bear hits a low ankle pick and just takes Khabib down. I've never seen Khabib taken down in a fight. This is the first time. This is the last time he's lost a round. All right, now he's on top. Oh, he let the bear up. The bear's coming at him. Oh, shit. He's pushing the head down. He pushed the head down. He's got him in a headlock.
The bear took the back.
The bear came out the back door. He's got Khabib in a turtle. Khabib is trying to get his underhooks back, but he's too weak.
I think the bear might be biting. I think that's illegal.
Yeah, I think okay. Well, okay. Well, now Khabib is back down on all fours. The bear's looking at the back. Is he going to go to the back?
Sprawling. He's looking good. He's got a north-south position here.
Yep. Oh, Khabib is up. Oh no. He didn't get the whizzer, so he got his back taken. Oh, the bear is looking for a low single.
Still biting.
Oh, he's around his belly. He is biting every once in a while. He's giving a playful nibble. This looks like me in the bedroom. Okay. Oh my God. Dude, this video is awesome. This is the shit. All right, we can't watch 4 minutes of this. Oh my gosh. If you have not seen this video, it is fun. Whoa, look at this. He hits him with the high crotch to a double leg. He's pushing through. Look at the bear's guard.
I think the story really here is the bear. Look at his distance.
The bear's got a sick guard.
He does.
Look at the bear has got good hips.
See that sprawl there? Do you see that sprawl?
Dude, he sprawls on him nonstop.
Yeah, that's the story here is the bear.
Yo, this bear is good. I'm wondering if Conor stays out and Ferguson just had knee surgery, when do you start hyping up the bear rematch?
I like it. I like that. I like that a lot.
20 years ago, the bear took a loss, and now he's ready for revenge.
Look at it. Oh, they slow-moed that one. The bear taking the back.
But look, though, that shows you Khabib does not have a good whizzer. He's sticking with the headlock. You're going to get your back taken. Boom! Taken down. Dude, that bear is good at wrestling. He's legit good. Damn. Oh, my gosh. He's trying to pull Khabib's pants off. How dare you? Oh, he's biting him. He is biting his arm. This is becoming a bear attack video. He's biting the shit out of Khabib's arm. Khabib with the stereotypical, like, dirty boy shoes. And they're just wrestling in dirt. Like, is that what Russia looks like? It's just dirt. There's no grass. It is just dirt.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Okay.
This video is great. Okay. All right. No excitement. We'll skip excitement this week. We're not playing the Beebs. We're going right to one Google trend video that is, I wish it became a viral video because this is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my entire life. I hate golf. I hate golf with a passion. When people ever talk about golf, it annoys me. I'll walk by someone and they'll be like, yeah, I was on the fairway. And I just immediately am like, kill yourself.
Dude,
I hate golf. Arnold Palmer fucking sucks. It's stupid. Arnold Palmer's themselves are stupid. I don't support anything with a golfer on it. Golfers are dumb as shit. The fact that you can call them athletes is a goddamn joke. It's silly. It really is.
At what point in like your daddom do you become the guy who watches
Never.
golf on the weekend?
Never. I don't care if it is me coming up as a dad. I don't care if I get the chance to come up more in my company. I don't care. I will never golf. And I will always make fun of golfers. Even in my company. Guys that are high up, business guy, I nonstop talk shit to them about golf. That is like the most dad bonerish of sports there is in the world. It's almost as bad as NASCAR. Baseball is close, but golf.
Whoa.
Golf is, goddamn, it's shitty and
You're
stupid.
passionate right now.
All right, I'm sorry.
So
What is this guy's name? Fred Couples.
Some people are not going to think this is funny.
Are you serious? This is the funniest video I've ever seen. It is one of the best things I've ever seen.
People might think we are psychopaths.
No.
I laughed so hard on this. I am not even exaggerating when I say I almost peed my pants.
I watched it 100 times.
Most definitely crying. And I'll probably cry right now, too, because it's that funny.
Okay, so there's this guy. We'll call him Fred Couples. He's stereotype type,
He's
right?
1,000 years old.
Yeah, he's 1,000
Still a professional
and 1
athlete.
years old. This guy's been golfing since BC, and he's got a white hat on, long sleeves. He's wearing some Centos pants. He's got some white sneakers on.
Those look like some New Balances.
Yeah,
right?
those
The
are
550s, I think.
They
is
are
what
white. He has not mowed the grass in these yet. No green stains. They're as white as the day is long. And then, so he's setting up. He's doing one of those big hits on the ball thing. One thing I know, though, is that the reason why most people don't say four, when they hit a ball, right?
Yeah,
that is meant for, like, warning people, right?
Yeah, like, oh, you're about to get hit in the face.
Yeah, like if I hit the ball and it, like, goes off the side of my whatever the hell they use, clubs. Okay, so if it ricochets off the side and they're trying to give someone a heads up over on the side, they go like 4. It's kind of like a watch your fucking ass. You know what I'm saying? So he goes back, he swings, and you can look on his face, and he has a little bit of shit, like I shagged that one. Like that wasn't good. And then all of a sudden, he has to just for probably etiquette reasons. He goes 4. And then after the ball is sailing, and you don't know where it's going. They're just kind of looking at the green, like, oh, it should land in this area. And then it's going towards the crowd, and then you hear something, and it's gorgeous.
Hardlanger, 1992 winner Fred Couples.
Fuck. Listen to this. Listen to this ball.
Oh my word.
Oh my, the dejected look on this poor guy. Listen, everybody listen. It's sailing towards the crowd. Believe me, I'll shut up. I promise. Listen close. Oh, right off of someone's fucking head. That apparently they must have had their mouth open for it to make this ricochet of a sound. Wait, here it comes.
Oh my word.
Oh god. This is the greatest video. It's the greatest video ever. Listen. Look, it hits him. Fart, fuck. I shagged that one. Oh, is that going towards the crowd? Shit.
Oh my word.
Oh my word. That was not a collarbone, Jim. That was someone's fucking skull.
And he's just standing there leaning on his club with his head down.
He looks dejected. Fuck. Oh, here it is.
Oh my word.
I just hope that wasn't a kid. That kid's not going to college. He just smacked the brain cells right out of his fucking ears. Oh no. Alright, last time. This is it.
I'm going to turn it up.
Listen. Oh my god. Alright, stop it. Outro music. Let's get the hell out of here. Keep it rolling.
I'm broken.
We're gone. We're out of here. We loved our time with you. Woo!
I'm broken right now.
Oh boy.
Time is now.
That is just
You
that's
gotta-
just incredible.
They should do that on golf every day.
If that was golf, if we could treat it like bowling, like the people are the pins, and it was golfers aiming to hit people, I'd watch that all day.
God.
Why did it make such a hard ricochet noise? Did he, like where you can hit on your head and open your mouth and it can make that like bongo sound? That guy must have been going like, oh, and it goes, oh boy.
All right, my shout outs this week for Sarah Hasselbeck, Amber Addison, Rob Mooney, what wrote me on, he won some medals this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And he also wrote me on Twitter today saying he's still on Team No Pineapple. So I appreciate your support. To all the listeners out there, thank you guys. Have a good week.
I got Rob Mooney, go fuck yourself. Pineapples rule. Got that, right? So, secondly, Fred Couples for smacking that poor bastard.
My favorite golfer.
With that ball. You're definitely my favorite. I don't know why there Arnold Palmer's out there with lemonade, iced tea, bullshit in it. There should be like a hard vodka or some shit called Couples. Because you're the baddest motherfucker alive. Taking dudes out with golf balls and bringing violence back to golf. I can appreciate that. So we loved our time with you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
A dream, though it's harder to live. Look, they gon' love me for my ambition. It speaks for itself. Beautiful music, painting pictures, it be my vision. Define ambition with me. My ambition to win, just to get me some ends. Help me pay my little rent, maybe sit in the bins. I saw mama praying as she wait on results. It was hot in the kitchen, can I wait on the porch? My father was missing, warlord Oliver North. Life was digging me deeper, I kept on coming up short. Breaking so many laws, waking up in the dark. Who cut my power off? It's time to move that powder soft. Not too many options when you coming from the project. Sitting in the trap, now you moving Cindy Lauper. Girls wanna have fun, and a nigga with some change. And I doubt that ever change. Ambition is priceless, that's something that's in your veins. And I doubt that ever change. Ambition is my shit, and I put that on my name. And I doubt that ever change. For my ambition. Easy to dream a dream, though it's harder to live.